I'm speaking on behalf of Ambassador Michael Kozak, who sends his regrets and his regards. Ambassador Kozak is the senior official of the Office of Global Criminal Justice and was unexpectedly unable to join us today. On this somber day of commemoration and remembrance, today's event provides us not only with an opportunity to reflect and to hear from victims and survivors, but to recommit ourselves to justice and accountability for the Yazidi community and for the victims and survivors of atrocities committed by ISIS. In 2014, during the events we commemorate today, I served in the leadership team of the Office of Global Criminal Justice, the War Crimes Office, under then Ambassador Stephen Rapp. And the current head of this office, Ambassador Kozak, served in the leadership of DRL, the Human Rights Bureau at the State Department. Horrific reports from Yazidis on Mount Sinjar poured into the State Department about what ISIS was doing. And we use that information to share with our US military colleagues to plan military operations, to provide humanitarian assistance to those fleeing ISIS, but also to attack ISIS convoys when we thought that by doing so, we could save at least some of the people ISIS was kidnapping and enslaving. It was not nearly enough to stop the genocide, but for those of us involved, it was our way to help relieve the suffering of the Yazidi people. And for many of us at the State Department who received those harrowing cries for help in 2014 and who still remain at the State Department, it has affirmed our resolve to help in whatever way we can going forward. In 2016, the Secretary of State made a determination that ISIS was responsible for genocide against the Yazidis, Christians, and Shia Muslims in the areas it controlled, and that ISIS was also responsible for crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing against those same groups. The United States remains committed to supporting Yazidis in their demands for justice and accountability for genocide and crimes against humanity. And the work that my office does across the world is to support holistic transitional justice approaches, including criminal prosecutions, truth-telling, memorialization, psychosocial assistance, and reparative measures. And we continue our efforts to facilitate the safe, voluntary, dignified, and informed return of displaced members of the Yazidi community, which is an important part of justice and accountability as well. To that end, the United States government has provided millions in assistance to help return displaced Yazidis in the north of the country. We have provided humanitarian assistance, including emergency assistance to hundreds of Yazidi former captives of ISIS to address their most immediate needs, because we know that the road for justice and accountability is long. Those immediate needs include legal, psychosocial, medical, and reintegration support. Much has been done, but there is much still to do. Hundreds of thousands of Yazidis remain still in displacement camps, and many are still missing, and this situation is unacceptable. There have been some progress. In March of this year, the Iraqi Council of Representatives undertook an important step by passing the Yazidi Females Survivors Law. The United States will continue to support the critical work of the Iraqi government in implementing this law and to advocate for the government of Iraq to robustly fund and staff the important mission of the Survivors Affairs Directorate General. And to lay the foundation for criminal prosecutions, the office in which I work, the Office of Global Criminal Justice, has invested funding to support efforts by organizations such as Yazda and such as other non-governmental organizations to collect and preserve evidence prepare actionable files for prosecution, provide legal support to victims, and to digitize case files. The United States also supported the government of Iraq when it requested the United Nations Security Council to establish UNITAD to support domestic effort to hold members of ISIS criminally accountable by collecting, preserving, and storing evidence in Iraq of atrocity crimes. These disparate efforts, both funding non-governmental organizations and international independent mechanisms, have built a strong evidentiary foundation for use in national and international criminal prosecutions. And the State Department has provided nearly $9 million to UNITAD since its inception. As UNITAD continues its work under a new special advisor, the United States knows that its success will lie in substantial part on strengthening relationships and partnerships with Yazidi communities and organizations to support their documentation efforts, to hear from voices such as from the one we just heard, to understand the needs of survivors and their communities, and to offer assistance in immediate efforts for exhumations and efforts to return the remains of loved ones. But the strong evidentiary foundation that has been built must translate into accountability. And to that end, the United States will continue to encourage the government of Iraq to pass national legislation facilitating the prosecution of atrocity crimes. We call, as the United States government, on the Iraqi Council of Representatives to take immediate steps to consult with all relevant stakeholders to advance and finalize the draft law before it, which would provide domestic criminal jurisdiction over genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. It is important that ISIS members can be prosecuted for these crimes, that we name these crimes for what they are, atrocity crimes. And it is important that they be prosecuted for these rather than only for their membership in a terrorist organization. The crimes we remember today are conduct-based offenses. They require a full accounting in order to advance a deeper sense of justice for victims. And yet, the harm suffered cannot be addressed solely through criminal justice. Ensuring that survivors know the fates of their loved ones and claim their remains is another important means of redress. To that end, the United States fully supported the process of exhumations of at least 16 mass grave sites at Kocho village and the subsequent identification and reburial of remains. This process affirmed the dignity of victims and indicated our respect for the community's traditions. It required the full cooperation of and coordination with the affected Yazidi community, the government of Iraq, the Kurdistan regional government, and international organizations. We hope this process provided some measure of peace and contributed towards a sense of justice. To those who suffered horrific crimes committed by ISIS, no words I say can convey the full extent of my sympathy to you and to your loved ones. What you have suffered touches not only your communities, but all of us. So on this 7th year of commemoration, I offer you not just words of sympathy and remembrance, but I offer you the continuing commitment of the United States government to support your efforts for accountability, justice, and peace. The road is long and difficult, and the going is sometimes slow, but we will travel together. Thank you.